Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jason and you're watching Jason Jensen Trains. Well, as you can see, I've been placing a lot of structures back in this area, trying to get a plan for the industrial part of the layout back here. I'm not putting any mountains on this layout, so I'm sort of using the structures as my mountains. And so starting small and getting bigger and bigger as it goes up into the background and the corners to give me the silhouette of, say, mountains. Well, in today's episode, we're going to talk about three things. We're going to talk about creating distance with color using paint. Then we are going to talk about the newest structure on the layout, which is the bottling and distributing plant for Foss soda. It's a kitbash using 2 kits from Foss scale models. We'll go over that in detail. That will lead us into the third thing, which is a discussion on kitbashing and creativity. But first, before we get into all of that, I'm going to show you a video of the layout so far and really give you an up-close look and show you where we're at so far. I've placed stuff. I mean, obviously the bridges are just sitting there. I've placed some trains to give you an idea of what it's going to look like. These trains here don't even have couplers on them yet. I have to add detail parts and weather them and put lettering on them. So there's a lot more that needs to be done. And I'll show you real quick too, like this opening here. I will take this white styrofoam and I'm going to cut a square and put it in right there and paint clouds on it so that it matches and you don't see the closet area. And I'm using the white foam because it already has a texture to it which kind of matches the texture of the wall a little bit. And then obviously I've got my black fascia to add here yet. And I'm looking forward then to maybe completing my bench work over on this side, getting some track laid down over there so that I can just watch the trains run continuously. Okay, so let's get to the video showing the overall layout. And believe it or not, in about 3 to 4 weeks, this layout will be a year old. I started this layout July 19th, 2019. So like I said, in a few weeks, it will be July 19th, 2020. And even I am surprised how much work I've gotten done in a year. It's really kind of insane. But it's a lot of nights of 3 to 4 hours of sleep, nights of no sleep at all. I became really obsessed in the last year of working on this. And there's days where it's hard because of my job. I'm spending time with family. I'm trying to put together these videos and doing editing. And then not to mention, I've been working with Carolina Craftsman Kits, designing and putting out some kits. So it has been extremely busy and it seems like I blinked and the year went by. So, all right, I'm going to stop talking and show you the video of the layout and then we'll get into today's topics. So here's my latest kit bash, and I used structures from Bandit's Roost and Rust Rock Falls. So from Rust Rock Falls, I used this half here, and that's right there. Then for this half, I used a structure from Bandit's Roost. Here's the structure right here. Now, I took this row of windows with the clapboard siding around it and put that strip right across the top. The bottom section of that wall is from the back side of that structure. Then the structure over here that has the sign on it, that whole wall section is right there. And I cut out 2 openings for doors, and the doors are from Foscale models. And then I put another little door over here. So I kind of took that structure and used backside, the walls from the backside, and just kind of put it together. I mean, as you can see, this was all one level, and I made mine taller by putting that row of windows that was right here across that section. So a lot of manipulating of that structure, and then just put them together. I can give you a close-up look. Now I used light avocado green for the structure. But once it was together, I did a lot of dry brushing going this direction over the clapboard, and then also this direction over that green to lighten it, because I want it to look like it sits further back than what it actually does on the layout. So by lightening it, you create that illusion, because the further something is away from you, the lighter it gets. Same with the roof. I used black construction paper, but used a dark gray spray paint over the construction paper to lighten it. And then also did dry brushing over it after it was all in place. For the sign, I created the sign in Photoshop, and this is from either a old Pepsi cap or Coca-Cola cap, I don't remember. And I used yellow and red with black lettering, because a lot of the Foscale model stuff uses those colors in their lettering and logo stuff. So and then just shrunk this down and put it on there, or well, cut it out, sanded the back of it, and then put it on there using white Elmer's glue. Then I just took my fingernail and pushed it into all of the clapboard. It takes a little while, but the effect is really nice. All right, well, let's take this over to the layout and put it in place. Okay, so let's place the structure where it's going to go. The first thing we're going to do is lift out our bridge. So I simply took the rail joiners, slid them back on both sides, and now we'll just set this off to the side. Now I'll get the structure, and we'll talk a little bit about the dry brushing and why it was so important and why it's important to make it so light. So here is the structure, and as you can see, it's pretty big. And I wanted to hold it down here so that you could actually see how big it is and how light it is compared to the rest of the structures here. Even the roof, I went grayer on the tar paper, just lighter on the clapboard siding. And so, to give you an idea of scale, this is how big it looks. Now, this is where it will sit. And you can see now, it actually looks smaller, it looks further away, and it's because of how light I made the overall structure. Now, the green I used on the structure is really close to the green of the tall brick building in the corner. And that was off of my old layout. I will be changing it, but I wanted to point that out to you because you can see how large that building looks in the corner. And now I'm going to take red brick and dry brush over that entire building, put gray trim on it, and then probably do some dry brushing of a light gray or even a bluish gray, one of the colors maybe in my clouds, and that'll really set it back even further, creating distance. The further something is away from you, the lighter it gets. This is on the wall on the opposite side of the room from my old layout. There was buildings that covered this area down here, but I wanted to show you this because you'll see I started with a light green on the mountain that was furthest away. Then I used a little darker green on the next mountain, and then an even darker green on the mountain that's closest to you. And then really dark green for the pine trees, even got into almost black for the pine trees down here. And then with buildings in front of it, it really created some depth. So you can do quite a bit with color, and you can apply the same technique to your structures. So structures on the back of your layout that are closest to the wall you can do dry brushing that makes them lighter. And then as the next row of structures can get a little darker, and the structures in the foreground can be the darkest or the most vibrant. So let me show you what this looks like with the structure in front of it. And you can, as you can see, you can really create some depth. So that's why on this structure I did so much dry brushing over the clapboard with a really light gray, so that it looks like it's sitting back further than what it is. I believe from here to the wall is only 3 feet. From the edge here back to the wall is 6 feet. And so I want to create as much distance as possible, especially since I film it and photograph it. So here's a little closer look at my corner. And there's 3 brick structures in the back that were off of my previous layout. That's another reason why this has gone as fast as it has, because a bunch of the structures were already built from my previous layout and I'm just reusing them. So, like I've mentioned, the center one, I'm going to dry brush or sponge a red brick color over it and put gray trim on it. I think it's going to look better in the corner, stand out a little bit more. And then I'll do some dry brushing over it to lighten the whole thing, to push it back, to give the illusion that it's back further than what it is. Same with the buildings on the side. Now this one right here, the tan brick one, is actually just the front of a structure. I'm going to put a little side over here, maybe 1 or 2 inches, and then a thicker one over on this side. I'll go back maybe 4 to 5 inches on that side and put a roof on it. I'll lighten that one. I'll possibly lighten this brown brick one right here. And then in the background, you'll see here I'm going to put in orange fall colored trees all in the back. So it'll kind of round that out a little bit. I had mentioned earlier at the beginning of the video about not having mountains on the layout, but I still want that silhouette that mountains give on the layout. So I wanted to give you a closer look at the progress here in the corner. A lot of these buildings were already made. I actually made this one on the channel. I have 2 videos dedicated to this. I may have to do some trimming on the base, but I'm just going to try to sink this down in the scenery so that I can use the entire thing, and there'll be a road that goes in front of it. So that'll sit there somewhere like that. The track here goes in front of this building, and then it's raised. It's still raised over here, but it's steel girders instead of the wood trestles. And there will actually probably be rock cliffs, some type of mountain maybe along this area back here, with possibly even some smaller structures up on top. And the structures up on top here, because I'm so close, this will all be filled in, like I'd mentioned, with the white styrofoam, and I'll paint clouds on it. But because we're so close to it, I'll probably put N-scale structures up on top of that rock cliff. So before we move on, if you'd like to see more of my work, please visit me on Facebook and Instagram at Jason Jensen Trains. All right, let's head over to the workbench. So real quick, I'd like to talk to you about kit bashing and just how easy it can be. Okay, so I have a few examples here of kit bashing, and I want to show you my very first kit bash ever. It was 2 kits from Foscale Models. So the main structure here is the main kit, and then I added a garage to the side of it, and I'll show you. So there you can see where the big garage door would be, and then there was a small window there. So a very, very simple kit bash, and the more kit bashing you do, the more extra parts you're going to come up with. like I showed on this. I now have a big garage door and an extra window. Here's the kit bash. I used 3 kits from railroadkits.com. So the structure in the center is called Montana's Tack Shop. Then there's just a single car garage on the side that I added. And then I added another garage on this side, and I believe that kit's called Dannon's Feed. Now, to get the roof line to go straight across, to be even on both sides, on the center structure and this structure, I put styrofoam and created a concrete foundation. And then Dannon's Feed goes all the way to the ground level. But very simple kit bash. So again, I have the back wall to Dannon's Feed. I have the back wall to the single car garage. And I'm sure those back walls had doors and windows. And same with, there was probably windows on the side of the big main structure. So you end up getting a lot of extra parts that later can be added to maybe a larger kit bash project that you're working on. Here's a very simple kit bash using 2 structures from Casey's workshop. I have a video on this. It's a 2-part video. This originally was a ice cream store, and then this was just a garage. So I had scratch built the front and put 2 columns going down to support it, and then put a gas pump in the center. So don't get hung up on what the structure is called. Like I said, this was meant to be an ice cream store. Really try to ignore the name of structures, because if you see an ice cream store, you're not thinking about a gas station. So ignore the names and try to think more about what 2 structures will fit well together. And it's easiest to use 2 or 3 structures from the same company. And the reason I say that is because each company has their own version of HO scale. And they're all close. But when you combine 2 structures from 2 separate companies, sometimes the windows don't line up. They're different sizes. So try to stick with the same company. Now here is one that I did. One of my favorites, using 3 kits from Casey's workshop. And many people have asked me if I have a video showing how I did this, and I do not. It was right before I started my YouTube channel. But this is 3 structures. You have the one in the center. Then I put one on top. And then I put a garage over on the side. So let me take the camera off and I'll show you these real quick. But I really just want you to be inspired to try to do some kit bashing. It's extremely easy to do, and if you need some extra wood, I know I get all of my extra wood from northeasternscalelumber.com. And if you go to their website, they actually have an HO scale section. And so if you need stuff, if you're combining two structures and you need just some wood to fill in between, here's a great example of that. So in the middle, I just added a little structure. You can see from the back, I just put in a piece of clapboard siding, put in a piece of cardboard for the roof. Same in the front. All right, let's take a closer look. I believe the more detail parts you can add, the more realistic it becomes. I want to give a quick shout out to my buddy Jake Johnson. He sent me a gift of this hopper that has his name on it. And he weathered it. He is a great modeler. Be sure to check out his modeling on Facebook. And if you'd like to hear some interviews with Jake, he has been on the HO Scale Customs podcast with Brett and Todd Wiley. They've interviewed him a few times, I believe, on the show. So be sure to go and check that out. But thanks again to Jake. I'm going to love running this on the layout. Let me give all of you a closer look at it. In my last video, I showed you how to build Eagle's Landing, which is a kit that I worked on with Carolina Craftsman Kits. Now, the question I've been asked the most is, what is the overall size of all four structures? And the two structures in the back, the docks that they sit on, are 4 by 6 inches. Then these two in front, the docks they sit on, are 4 by 4.5. Now, you can put them all in a straight row. You could put them in an L shape. You could put them back to back so that all four structures make a square that maybe sits out in the center of the harbor, or have it come straight out from the land. There's so many possibilities with this kit. And if you don't like the height, these two here are 2 stories. You could take the top one off and put it next to it. You may have to buy some wooden dowels to put your pilings underneath it. But if you bought the whole thing, instead of having 4 structures, you would now have 6 structures. Or you could take those top structures and put them back up here on the land. And the bottom structures are tall enough where you could cut the walls at a slant and have a slanted roof on top of them. So I designed this kit so that you could do multiple things with it. It's so diverse. So again, an overall size really depends on how you put it together in the room that you have on your layout. Now this there's still some available. It is a limited edition kit, so please visit carolinacraftsmankits.com. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope it inspired you to try to create some depth on your home layout, and I hope it inspired you to try some kit bashing. It's really not that hard, and the more you do, the better you'll get at it. So I love, as all of you know, I love kit bashing because I like making unique structures that no one else has on their layout or diorama. Well, thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click on that bell up in the corner. I love model railroading, and I love sharing it with all of you. I love hearing from all of you. So please be sure to leave a comment in the comment section below, and stay inspired. And until next time, happy modeling, everyone.